one of the things we found out was all the reasons we had chosen for were just the tip of the iceberg as far as why we actually would find success building here. It's got a very rich history, same as everywhere else for Hawaii, because it was taken over by Americans from the indigenous Hawaiian people. We have James McHutcheson and Sinclair and Francis Sinclair were the two who purchased it from Kamehameha V for $10,000. And this is all the way back in 1864. So it's been under their ownership ever since. They've had a ranch on the island, and it's the only source of employment for the people who live there. It's 3 times as many Hawaiians as are necessary to run it. They try to run a cattle ranch, and they also grow sugar right now. And the idea is they will hire more people than necessary so that they can give back to the community. And because right now the sugar price has been down so low, they're actually facing $1 million for every penny that it goes up. The other part of that was right now they've got, I want to say, about 200 residents. The most recent figures I looked at say that there are about 300 Native American Hawaiians living there. And so, as he said, it's right off the coast of Hawaii's island named Kauai. And what we thought was the solution could be to create increased agriculture, shelter, and employment by building a hotel that will provide the necessity for increased production and create employment and capital gain. So we're going to bring in money, we're going to bring in hopefully resources for the community that already lives there. We're not necessarily doing this as a business venture for ourselves, though it's definitely going to sound that way for the entirety of our lecture. Right now we're trying to come up with, in one project, the best way we can help these people. Because right now they're facing a huge amount of unemployment as the private ventures of the owner's family of the island continue to try to dwindle. Let's see here, pre-existing conditions, as I said, population under 300, the 250 that aren't Hawaiian, they live without electricity. They make about minimum wage right now from what I hear, and it's basically a very well-off family trying to do the best they can, providing for an entire town, for an entire grouping of people. They have a mayor for the city of Niihau. I believe there are 2 different locations where people reside. And right now, though the mayor and all of the political figures on the island are connected to the family, it sounds like there's a little bit of unrest. Everything that's already on the island that they're living in, obviously from no electricity, it's going to be out of date. Most of it was built after they purchased and in between the time of World War II. There have been updates and advances to the cattle ranch, but there haven't been many private ventures, especially for the people living there. The geography varies from mountains on the lower south side on the coast to being very moderate, as he said, on the top half when we're trying to build. See here, for the specifications, it's going to be located 17 miles away from the west coast of Kauai, which is why it's in the county of Kauai. It's the closest island to. It's 72 square miles long, and it looks like the opposite of California. It's going to be one of the smallest Hawaii's inhabited islands right now. It's actually the 7th smallest, and that's because they continue to find cool islands. Utilities would be done by the county. We started looking into the specifics of what they already have, and it's very difficult to get these figures without having a private license as a business. I talked to the dean of the construction management over in the Riverside building on campus, and he was telling me in a very quick way that we can't get these answers as a school. We can only get these answers as a business because they're so expensive. Right now, the building codes that Austin alluded to, we have outdated versions up to, I believe, 08, and they'll tell us the necessary cost for whatever we want to use as building materials. If we wanted to build this out of wood, glass, steel, or otherwise, we can find out the building costs for whatever the features we're going to add are. The problem then becomes how we're going to ship all those things to Hawaii. So they have a given estimation cost where they multiply it. It's just, oh, for Hawaii, we're going to multiply it by 0.4, by 0.5, and it's going to cost twice as much. And so right now for the county that we only had the neighboring properties to try and find all these figures for, and on the electricity, natural gas, and water, they're sustaining themselves on the current islands. The idea would be we could transfer over all of the properties they already have, that they always have to run with a certain allowance, and we would be able to construct our resources as we use some of theirs to get the project started. See here, so for land access, we had a bunch of different realtor sites. Because we can't go on and find things from an industrial standpoint, we decided to go, and we found that it was about an average of 300 a square foot. The existing possible construction land use, just give you guys a couple quick facts. Right now, Kauai itself is a population of 70,000, so we're going to add less than 1/70th of their current population. And this is as of 2012, of course. They had, let's see here, no information for Nihao because it's privately owned. It's like, it's as though it were a plantation owned by one person. So there's only, I want to say 3 things. Okay, just making sure that was all I want to show you on there. I want to say there are 3 things you find when you're trying to look up information on Nihao, and it's generally what happened during World War II because some Japanese pilots crash landed there, and the mythological story of the Robinson family who actually owns this island, because it reminded me of Robinson Crusoe when we first looked it up. And that's really what it seems to do for the rest of everyone else.